Yeah, my name's Hayden Dale.
I'm Jason Watkins.
I'm Cody Williams, also known online as Manton.
Yeah, hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Rob.
My name is Chris Ray.
Hi, I am Yuki Lee Bender.
My name's Eric.
Hi, I'm Chandler too.
Hi, I'm Carolina Alvarado. I'm from Springfield, Missouri, and I'm currently cosplaying.
Could be this metagame
That's
too.
tough. That's tough. I don't know. I don't really necessarily have like a least favorite hero. I think like sometimes playing into like Ultim is like less fun because of the ice react and things like that. But to be honest, I'm actually surprised about how fun it is to play most games. I know people have issues with Starvo in this meta, and I get it. Like it's not the most fun to play against. It's probably one of the Guardians, to be honest. Which sorry to the Guardian players, but yeah.
Dash, 100%.
Is it because you're a prison main?
It's because I'm a prison main. And I also think Dash is really strong in the meta right now.
Starvo. I mean, it's just a coin flip either way. You have to hedge your deck because they could be blockout or aggro. Even after the nerfs, it's just a game where neither player feels like they have real agency. The Starvo player's just hoping to hit the thing, and you're sitting there hoping they don't hit the thing, and you're just staring at each other like, did you get it? Oh, did you get it? Okay.
Honestly, I hate the mirror. I hate playing Starvo versus Starvo. It's very coin flippy. I like games that have a little more agency, whether I'm even not favored or favored. I like games that don't feature so much variance. So
Definitely Starvo control. I think that can give Lexi some problems, especially because we kind of have to board with the aggro Starvo in mind and have enough disruption for them. So we don't really get to board for the fatigue game plan, and that's a little bit rough.
Probably Starvo. It's just like you flip him up, you don't know what he is. Like control, like you don't know what his plan is, and no matter what, he always just wins. Or like not he doesn't always win, but he's very, very like hard to deal with. Regardless, because it's like if he's control, he tries to set up, and he just unloads Oakenold or Fused or whatever randomly. It's very hard. It's not like Oldhim where like you have more time and you kind of know what's coming. His hero power is just very, very, very good.
I play Dash, so currently my least favorite hero to play against is Chane, which is very unfortunate. There is an insane amount of Chanes here.
Most overrated legendary equipment.
Can I be honest?
Yeah, as honest as
Tunic.
Tunic's overrated?
It's a little overrated.
Most overrated. Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, probably Tunic, to be honest.
Tunic?
Probably just Tunic, yeah. Probably, I would say Tunic.
Tunic?
Yeah, it feels kind of weird because like Tunic's good and everyone uses it, but like as far as like the EV of Tunic, it's not that good, especially when the meta's really, really fast. You can't get enough value out of it. So I'd say over probably Tunic.
I guess I'd have to guess that Rampart is a little overrated. I think a lot of people know Stalagmite is good, but not enough people still.
Probably maybe like something like Vestige of Soul. Yeah, I think you just play the Tunic in that build. I think if you're playing Vestige, it's like you're trying to string together tome turns that are just kind of nuts.
You just pray for the divinity?
Yeah.
I think Grasp.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a little overrated. I mean, it's a good equipment, but yeah.
I would say Mask of Momentum.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Okay, you think Ninja's trash?
Yeah, Ninja is awful. Ninja's very bad. Ninja's very, very bad.
Shock Charmers, yes, you got it. I think it goes in. A lot of people put it in the list, and I just don't see a lot of value in that pick, especially in Starvo.
So most underrated legendary equipment. I would say like from my past, right? Like playing Dorinthia, I would say like the most underrated is probably like the gloves. Yeah. Even just like activating the ability, getting that +1 is pretty sweet. Or maybe something like Shock Charmers in Starvo. If you go up against like a Kana.
And I just don't see a lot of value in that pick, especially in Starvo.
Yeah. I think I mean Shock Charmers in Lexi can be really good too. When you're just threatening like a lot of on hits, you just pump the attack with Shock Charmers. Pretty sick.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I would say until we got to this event, it was Creepers. The thing is the most busted card, and it's kind of like everyone just figured out. Like,
do you think Creepers is more busted than Crown of Seas?
Oh, they're real close.
They're real close.
But for the longest time, people didn't think Creepers, like, I guess they didn't value Creepers as highly as I always valued it. Crown, everyone knows Crown's busted.
Yeah.
But I think we just got to a point where people are like, oh, this Creepers thing is kind of crazy.
Oh, most underrated Skullbone Crosswrap, definitely.
Skullbone Crosswrap?
Skullbone Crosswrap, yeah, underrated.
I think Rampart's actually a little underrated. A lot of Starvos are using Stalagmite in the mirror, and I feel that's wrong. I feel like Rampart, like they're scared of getting their crown blown up, and then they're -1 on the Rampart from exposed elements. But I think you just have to make them have it. You have to play Rampart. It gives too much value when you're blocking with Rampart and then a 3-block from your hand to stop the Winter's Wail. So yeah, I think that Rampart's probably actually one of the more undervalued equipments.
Maybe New Horizon. Like, I know that it gets called a Lexi card, and everyone's like, yeah, it's good in Lexi, but I think people overlook just how good it is. The ability to set up 6-card hands and just like play out of your arsenal. A lot of the lines that it enables are really, really powerful, and I think that the card is really good. Like, I imagine there would be other classes if they could use a double arsenal, they absolutely would.
I don't know. I still like to say scab skins. I'm a little biased, but it gives you free value sometimes. Just ignore when you roll one.
Tekla Heart's kind of underrated, but that's because nobody ever plays Dash.
Coming from a Dash player?
Coming from a Dash player, I'm a little biased.
Yep.
Most overrated Majestic's probably something like Enlightened Strike at the moment. I think it is a really good card, but I think at the moment, or maybe even Command and Conquer, right? Like
Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer.
It's mad expensive. It's probably the most expensive Majestic, I'd say.
Right now, into a bunch of crowns, it's pretty bad.
It's very good when it's good, but I think that we're seeing that it just has more and more counterplay as people are able to like use their arsenal at instant speed and do more things on other people's turn. The power level of that card has been going down, and also like the better armor has been getting like the less that card performs. So I think that's a card that is good and will stay good, but is not quite as essential these days as a lot of people seem to think that it is.
Praetor Bravehold. I feel like that's way too expensive, and I feel like that deck has never been relevant.
Like Bolton in general, or
just Saber Builds in general.
Saber Bolton.
Rivelin Runeblood.
Revelin Roomblood.
There you go.
Okay, maybe pre-Skeleton Ban, would you say it was still overrated?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah, but it's still good. It's good. It's just overrated.
I think actually, this is maybe not many people agree with this, but I think Pulse of Voltaven is actually overrated. In the deck, it can sometimes be really cumbersome without having that pitch is a red pitch. I mean, sometimes you get the hammer for 8, but I mean, I would be honestly perfectly fine not playing it.
Okay, so here's the thing. If I think of a Majestic and I think of a Majestic that makes me mad,
Sure, that's fine.
is Sonata a Majestic?
Sonata?
I don't know.
Yes, it is a Majestic.
Okay, then yes, Sonata. I
think
hate
Sonata's
it. I
overrated?
hate
You
it.
hate it?
I hate it. It's very strong, but I think it's very overrated.
You know, sometimes I think that Sonata's a little overrated just because of the hit and miss nature of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just throwing away a card, especially now that Skelada's just not a thing.
Most underrated Majestic, probably like Blink, something generic like that, right? Like Blink can just be like pretty wild, have some excellent turns with it, It's probably rated well, but yeah, that's the first one that kind of comes to my head,
I feel like underrated is actually Crater Fist. I feel like Crater Fist could be. I feel like everyone just uses the block. I actually think there's a lot of times where people just do not factor it into like their end game. Yeah, they're like ending the game. I feel like a lot of Starvos just literally ignore it and just use it to block and only block.
Tekla Pounder is very underrated. Tekla Pounder is very underrated in certain matchups.
Okay.
So if you're going aggro, a lot of people think it's bad, but it's very, 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 very good.
Okay.
Also, Dissolution Sphere is
Dissolution Sphere, yeah. Especially against Viscerai pre-ban.
so good. So good. You have to be careful with it, though. It's kind of like a trick.
Yeah.
Like, you can just have a Viscerai go from aggro to OTK real fast.
I've got it. Underrated is definitely Unified Decree. If you don't know what it is, you can look that up. Yes, the warrior one.
Underrated, probably Runic.
Runic Reclamation?
Yeah, Runic's great. It's just a 7. It's a 3 for
Especially
7 with
against-
upside.
In Runeblade mirrors, if you're against a Chane,
Yes.
and popping a shackle.
I love Runic.
Channel Mount Heroic.
Oh, Channel
I
Mount
think
Heroic,
people
okay.
Understand that the card is good, but I think it's maybe being a little bit slept on. I think Briar's kind of like in the shadows, and I think that deck is still very real. So I think Briar and Channel Mount Heroic is still like a strategy that
leads
going to
yeah.
be around and can be really strong.
Really well rated depending on the days, like Channel Lakes, like all the channel cards. I'd say Channel Step is definitely like the worst, but then Channel Mount is probably a little bit underrated, and Channel Lake is probably a little bit overrated on average. But yeah, that's probably the Majestic stuff.
Underrated, I guess. Damn, it's hard to say. It might be. It's kind of funny because it might be Tome of the Arknight. I think that card's kind of crazy. There's not a lot of cards that just let you draw in Fab. And that one gives you more card advantage than Sonata, and
So it costs 1 though.
yeah, for sure. You still gotta float the 2 if you pick your blue.
That's a tough one. I mean, I might just use the current format and just say like I think Chane is like a little bit overrated.
I think Chane is a little overrated.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to say Chane.
I think at this point it might end up being Chane.
Probably like the rune blades in general. I think it's Chane specifically.
Yeah, I think people think that the power level is like higher than I think in reality is when you understand maybe how to play. Like really good players can play it really well, but there's also ways you can attack it. So
In our testing, like we had like an 80% win rate against, or like 70% win rate against Chane. So I felt really good about it.
Yeah, just because I think everybody knew he was the most popular pick, right? Kano's been blasting him, and I've been seeing a lot of Chane struggling.
Yeah, his hero power is very good, but the fact that everyone just picked Chane up and just assumed they could just like, murder everyone with Chane, it's not Chane, it's Husk, right? Like Husk is the reason, right? Because you could just do whatever, because you don't have any on, like you're in, but you don't have any on hits, right? You're running CNC and stuff like that. So I'd say probably Chane as a hero is probably a little overrated. Husk is great. Chane himself is probably a little overrated.
I think it is a good deck, but I think it's overrated. I don't think it's the best deck. You know, a lot of people have been saying that it's the best deck, and I just don't think it is. I don't know if that's because like a lot of people like us, you know, we've been kind of tooling to beat it. You know, we're ready to go for it. But yeah, I've never been on Chane. You know what I mean?
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg. You know I'm mobbing with the D.R.E.
Overrated right now is gonna be. It is possible. I do think it's Prism. I think this isn't a good meta for Prism with all the chains running around, all the rune blades running around. I think it's also Starvo's not a good matchup for Prism. People think it is, but I think if the Starvo builds the deck correctly and sides correctly, there's a strategy that makes it really hard for Prism to win.
Overrated hero is Starvo. Period.
So I feel like Starvo is maybe a little bit overrepresented. I do think the deck's very good, but I think that Lexi can absolutely give him a run for his money. I think that Chane can, and I think that Prism has a reasonable matchup into him, although maybe not the best matchup spread elsewhere. So I think Starvo, while definitely tier 1 and very good, is maybe not like tier 0. Like, I'm surprised that he's 40% of the meta, and that he's, you know, I don't think he's quite that good.
Makes sense.
Underrated hero is probably Oldhim. I think Oldhim is incredibly powerful. It's really good in the chain. It has play into Starvo with full blockout, though the games are very long. It cannot beat Prism, but realistically, Prism shouldn't do well at this event. And so I think people were too afraid of Prism to maybe bring Oldhim.
Hero underrated. Kano's underrated. Yeah, there you go.
Dash.
Dash.
That's fine.
I'm biased.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Most underrated hero is probably something like Lexi. I mean, I think Lexi can be really good, especially like if you don't know what you're doing against it. If you're playing against it, it can definitely sneak up on you. I mean, a lot of the on hits as well. You know, Chilling Ice Vein goes all turn. Yeah. You know, so like with Shock Charmer's another underrated Majestic. You know, or legendary. Like you pump that, and next thing you know, you're just having to discard a bunch of cards because you got reds in your hands. So.
You know, I think it's gonna have to be Rhinar because I don't know. I have a pretty even matchup spread. There's no one that I really dread facing. I don't know. I don't know a lot about the deck, honestly. Even though I've been playing for 6 months, I just learned today that I fatigued an Oldhim, which has never happened. So he still surprises me.
Yeah, I think Briar's a little bit underappreciated right now. I think Lexi currently is a little bit underappreciated. The bans really helped as Lexi, and I think that there's a lot she can do in this meta.
Underrated Lexi? A little bias, obviously. Just a little bias. I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting. There was no Lexis in top 8, right? But like, out of the Lexis, there were only about 20 there. I think the matchups were actually pretty decent. We're able to side into a lot of different stuff. So I'd say that's like the probably underrated pick I would have. Dash would be like similar. Like I think Dash is like right up there with Lexi for like most underrated.
Honestly, I think it's Briar. I think Briar has game. Briar can be very explosive. It just absolutely just destroys Prism, and I think it can raise Chane. Obviously, it is going to struggle against Starvo.
Yeah, yes and no. Like I think more than the meta getting fast, it's getting powerful spikes, and those spikes mean that the games end sooner in a lot of instances. Do I think it's like too fast? It might be getting towards a little bit too fast, but I think the speed of the current format is actually pretty good. You can defend a lot more than you could in the last format, and I think that's nice. So, yeah.
I do believe that the game has been getting faster and faster with every release, from Chane to Briar to Starbow now. The game is getting really fast. I'm thinking that Uprising will 100%. If they treat Icelander right, I feel like the game will slow down, and I think it's going to be really healthy from there.
No, I think it was faster at other points. It was definitely faster at Nationals when it was just Briar and then more Briar. So I would say that the game is in a medium spot right now. But if you look at all the majors except for that Nationals, a defensive slow deck has won almost every single major. So
that's true.
throughout the history of time, players like a consistent strategy, and I think you're going to see that pretty often. I think we could see, as long as the game goes about 4 or 5 turns with people being able to do things, I think that's long enough.
Game getting too fast? I don't think it is. I think different decks. We kind of saw that the aggro deck, Briar, that my boy Tarek also on Dragon Shield won Nats with. I think that kind of sped up like the aggro archetype in the game. We didn't really see a whole lot of that outside of like Kano prior to that. Or, I'm sorry, not Kano, like Katsu. But I don't think it's getting too fast. You definitely don't want it too slow and like you're going to time and stuff like that. But I think it's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, so I think it definitely is. The game has evolved, and Yuki actually made a post on Twitter that I really agreed with, Yuki Bender, where she said, it's the meta when you first played Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising was very give and take. In this meta, you have 30 damage turns that you just can't, like if Chane sets up and has time snaps, like you can just do 30 damage turns, and there's not really any play around that. It's very swingy. It really is. I think the game needs to slow down for a more enjoyable format, and hopefully Icelander, and more control elements will help with that. But yeah, I do think the game is way too fast right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the game's definitely getting faster. I actually wrote an article about how the game's kind of feeling a little bit higher variance lately, and I think it's because everything's speeding up and the turns. The games are more and more decided by these really huge swing turns, and the decks that have the biggest turns tend to be the decks that are at the top of the meta right now. I don't know if I think it's too fast. I wouldn't want it to get too much faster. I think it's at an okay place right now, but if it starts to get too much faster, I could see that being detrimental. I do think it is hard to slow things down though, because I don't know if having more and more defensive power and more just fatigue decks is really the answer. I think really what we might need is more decks that really demand on hits or strip cards if they don't block. I think you don't want to overdo it because we've seen with Starbow that if you take away agency from players, that's not fun either. But I think that maybe somehow finding a way to make the game feel a little bit more interactive would be nice, because there's a lot of decks that sort of just, it's like 2 ships in the night, they're just going right past each other, and it's whoever can get to 40 faster.
I think power creep's a thing. It's very realistic in a lot of different card games. I think Starbow broke a lot of things. I don't think it's getting too fast. I think it's just a little bit too narrow right now. But it'll change. Yeah, there are decks that just invalidate other decks, but they invalidate too many other decks. Think about Prism invalidates other control, because Prism is just way better. And then Starbow invalidated all the aggro decks, right? So I think those decks are making it way too restrictive. Like you saw with 40% Starbow PT, it's pretty restrictive. But I don't think it's getting too fast. I think it's just getting faster, but it depends on the new heroes coming up. But I think it's at an okay pace. I think once Starbow LL's out, it'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I definitely was a little surprised this weekend. You always run Tunic and Rhinar, but I see other people, Briar maybe not running they run Aether Ironweave. They think I'm not going to get that second Tunic trigger. So that feels a little fast. I didn't watch the stream a lot. I know Kano has been doing some pretty fast things for sure. But I think the game's at a pretty good place, right? And it's only going to get better from here on out for sure.
I actually don't. I don't think the game is getting too fast. I feel like we're all evolving with it. If it stays the same, then we're just kind of going to lose interest. If it goes too fast right now, but 3 years from now, it's going to be like, oh my god, that was so easy. What were we thinking about? It's going to be fast anyway. You just got to evolve with the meta. You got to evolve with everything.
If you made it to the end of this video, please give a comment, subscribe. I'll definitely be doing more of this. Hopefully I'll be going to the Calling Las Vegas. And also, if there's any questions you want me to ask people, be sure to comment down below so I know what to ask while I'm there. And here's a final little bonus question for all of you that made it to the end.
All right,
And last question: who would win in an arm wrestle, you or Tarek?
Oh, I'd crush Tarek. Man, I'll break that little arm of his. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Let's go, baby.